Good to have you with us. You're watching The Big Story. I'm Avni Raja. We're making a start here with some breaking news that's coming in. This is with respect to the decision on Oxford vaccine approval. Now, this government-appointed expert panel will be meeting at noon tomorrow to decide on the approval for Oxford's COVID vaccine and whether or not it should be cleared for emergency use in India. Those are the details coming in at this point in time. One meeting has already been held. This is the second meeting now that's going to be held tomorrow to take a final call on whether or not this approval will be given. In fact, the CGI has hinted that this approval is in fact to come through soon. Let me go across to Ayushmann for more on this. Ayushmann, all eyes of course on this particular vaccine and whether or not approval will be given.
Yes, in fact, subject expert committee is to meet tomorrow, and it is expected that the recommendation from their side will be given, after which the final approval will come from the DCGI. So in the speech that he made today, in the webinar where he was talking today, the Drug Controller General of India clearly hinted to the fact that in the new year, India might be having something in the hand. So that is something that we all are taking in context of the vaccine approval. Serum Institute's vaccine, which they are manufacturing right now, has already received the approval in UK, and that is by the MHRA. So not much of a delay should be taking place in India. Tomorrow is the third meeting when we are talking about it. Yesterday the meeting was there, and tomorrow again the subject expert group is meeting. It will be important to see as to what happens to Serum Institute's Covishield, because all eyes will be there on the vaccine approval, and we heard the Prime Minister as well. So definitely it's a big day tomorrow for Serum Institute as well as AstraZeneca's Covishield in India.
Yes, absolutely, Ayushmann. Let's hope that we hear some good news soon, but do stay with us. Meanwhile, the country, of course, is waiting for the COVID vaccine. As that's happening, the preparations are on in full swing for the rollout. The centre has planned a series of dry runs of the vaccination in all states on January 2nd. So the state capitals will be conducting mock drills in at least 3 sites. And this includes districts that are situated in difficult terrain or have poor logistical support. Meanwhile, the centre has also placed an order for 83 crore syringes that will be used for the vaccinations as well. In fact, let's also tell you about what the Prime Minister said earlier on today after 25 cases of the new COVID strain have been recorded in India. Amid fears of rapid spread of the new strain, the Prime Minister urged India to be more careful, assuring that the government is ready for a nationwide successful vaccination drive.
...2021 इलाज की आशा लेकर के आ रहा है। वैक्सीन को लेकर भारत में हर जरूरी तैयारियां चल रही हैं। भारत में बनी वैक्सीन तेजी से हर जरूरी वर्ग तक पहुंचे, इसके लिए कोशिशें अंतिम चरणों में हैं। दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा टीकाकरण अभियान चलाने के लिए भारत की तैयारियां जोरों पर है। कोरोना संक्रमण घट जरूर रहा है, लेकिन ये ऐसा वायरस है जो तेजी से फिर चपेट में ले लेता है। इसलिए 2 गज की दूरी, मास्क और सैनिटेशन के मामले में ढील बिल्कुल नहीं देनी है। पहले मैं कहता था दवाई नहीं तो ढिलाई नहीं, लेकिन अब मैं फिर से कह रहा हूं, दवाई भी और कड़ाई भी। कड़ाई भी बरतनी है और दवाई भी लेनी है। दवाई आ गई तो सब छूट मिल गई, ये भ्रम में मत रहना। दुनिया यही कहती है, वैज्ञानिक यही कहते हैं, और इसलिए अब मंत्र रहेगा हमारा 2021 का, दवाई भी और कड़ाई भी।
All right, let me in fact go back to Ayushmann at this point. Ayushmann, obviously, it is very crucial for everyone not to let guards down, even as the vaccine will probably see light of day soon enough. But what can you tell us about the dry runs that are going to be conducted and all the preparations that are being made for successful vaccination drives across the country?
Lavni, before we start about the dry run that is to take place all across the country, it is important to mention that the dry run was conducted in 4 states, and the center found that it was okay to carry out the dry run in order to make the states aware of the challenges that is there in the adult administration of vaccine. And that is why now it has been decided that at least about 3 places in every state, and for that exceptions are made in Maharashtra as well as Kerala. We have seen the large amount of infection in those states. So in these 2 states, more than 3 places, the dry run can take place. But in other states, in these capital cities, the places would be identified where 25 healthcare workers can be administered the vaccine, and the required operational guideline which the health ministry has shared with the states need to be implemented there, so as to see as to how the vaccination drive can actually work. If there is an adverse event, how one can manage. So it is basically a dummy practice. A dry run is basically a practice mock drill kind of exercise where the states are told to be prepared about all that it can happen during the vaccination drive. And that is why on 2nd of January, this humongous exercise is going to take place all across the country, where in every state we will find that dry run for COVID vaccine is taking place.
All right, Ayushmann, thank you so much for joining us with all of those details. Meanwhile, remember, DCGI has also indicated that India is likely to get the COVID vaccine in the new year. The country's apex drug regulator has said that it is likely to give clearance to the vaccine soon. But let's also tell you about Delhi's first COVID vaccination center, which is now ready. Mira now gets you the special report on how the vaccination drive will actually be carried out. The center in South Delhi is meticulously divided into 4 blocks, that is registration, verification, vaccination and observation area. And 1,000 such centers will be built in the national capital alone. Take a look at this report.
As India waits for the approval of first vaccine in the country, the vaccination centers have been started in the national capital. We are in South Delhi, where you can see this is one vaccination center where the counter number 1 is there. Here, the people who receive SMS for the vaccination will be registered. The social distancing guideline need to be maintained. The thermal screening will be done. Hand sanitization will be done. And then from here, they will be coming inside to the counter number 2. This is the waiting area where we are right now. Here also, the social distancing guideline need to be followed, and in the waiting area, people need to sit. Again, on counter number 2, the verification of the document will take place at this point. Here, after the verification takes place, the person whose verified documents will go inside in this room where the freezers are there, and the vaccination will take place in this room. This entire center has been planned as per the operational guideline which has been sent by the health ministry to the states. From here, when the vaccination takes place, one person will be told to sit in this observation area. This is the observation area where it will be important to monitor if there is any adverse event taking place in the person who has been administered the vaccine. Once the time period of about half an hour is completed and there is no adverse event found, a person can go out from this area. But this is the waiting area again for the observation purpose. And once the observation is done, a person can move out through this way to outside. And if there is an adverse event, he can be taken to the nearby hospital. This is the nodal vaccine center which has been made currently. Likewise, 1,000 more centers will be made in the national capital.
हमारा सौभाग्य है कि हम देश को पहला कोविड-19 का वैक्सीन सेंटर देने में कामयाब हुए। साउथ दिल्ली म्यूनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन ने ये वैक्सीन सेंटर को निर्माण किया है और ये देश का पहला मॉडल वैक्सीन सेंटर है जिसको हमने तैयार किया है। इसी की कॉपी करके पूरे देश में और दिल्ली में खासकर 1000 कोविड वैक्सीन सेंटर बनाने का प्लान है और इसको हमने बहुत सुंदर तरीके से और सुनियोजित तरीके से बनाया है, जिसमें केंद्र सरकार की सारी गाइडलाइन को फॉलो करते हुए हमने यहाँ पर फर्स्ट रन पे थर्मल स्क्रीनिंग से लेकर के वैक्सीन का जो लास्ट का उसका ऑब्जर्वेशन तक हमने इसमें प्रोविज़न रखा है। जब पेशेंट्स यहाँ पर लाया जाएगा उसका प्री मेडिकल पहले तो प्री रजिस्ट्रेशन होगा, फिर हमारे पोर्टल के ऊपर रजिस्ट्रेशन होगा, उसकी थर्मल स्क्रीनिंग होगी, फिर उसको वैक्सीन दी जाएगी। वैक्सीन का आउटपुट क्या आता है उसको ऑब्जर्वेशन सेंटर में भी रखा जाएगा 1 घंटे के लिए, आधा घंटे के लिए। और अगर किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम आती है तो उसको भी हमारे पास एम्बुलेंस अवेलेबल है, उसको हॉस्पिटलाइज किया जाएगा।
And it's the 31st of December, and just like the past year, this time as well, the New Year's Eve is going to be extremely muted because of all the COVID restrictions that are in place. Many states have imposed night curfews and banned big parties as well. Goa, however, is one of the few places where the restrictions are extremely limited. It's also one of the places which is seeing a lot of tourist influx at this point in time. While many of you have already made your plans, make sure to follow all the guidelines that are in place in your specific states. But let's get you some breaking news coming in from Tamil Nadu. Well, several relaxations in the guidelines have been announced as far as the state of Tamil Nadu is concerned. So indoor social, political, sports, cultural, educational and entertainment events can be held with 50% of the total seating capacity or with not more than 200 people. This is from the 1st of January. Let me in fact go across to Mugilan, who's joining me on the phone line to tell us more about all of this. Mugilan, if you can explain to us what is going to be extended until the end of January and what are the new relaxations that have been put in place by Tamil Nadu government?
Definitely, now the Tamil Nadu state government have extended the general lockdown till Jan 31st, and they have come up with a new list of relaxations to the state this time. So as per the latest communication from the Tamil Nadu government, now all the indoor social, political, cultural, educational events can be held 50% of the total seating capacity and not more than 200 individuals. And this is gaining significance because now this being a political season, now several meetings are being held by political parties also. So now this will help political parties also to conduct events at various districts. And more importantly, the film and the serial shootings can now be done without any restriction, because usually there was a restriction about the number of schools that can be called for a film or serial shooting. And now the religious places, all religious places in the state can be kept open as per the normal timings, because now the temples and the other religious places are being opened as per being given by the government in the last SOP. And more importantly, the e-registration following the COVID virus with the new variant, now the government has said that the e-registration for the people who travel from the other states will continue, but still they have given exemptions for Pondicherry, Andhra and Karnataka, the people who travel from these states alone. And more importantly, on 16th, that is the last day of Pongal, the beach will be closed for public, because there is a custom here in Chennai where on the last day of Pongal, thousands of people will gather at Marina Beach. So now the government has said that on 16th January, the Marina Beach will be shut for one day.
All right, Mugilan, thank you so much for joining us with all of those details. All right. right, moving on now, let's look at the state of Karnataka, where there are certain restrictions in place. Now, speaking to Mirana's Neha Hebbale, Karnataka Home Minister has spelled out measures that are in place for New Year's Eve in the capital city of Bengaluru. People have been restricted from gathering at popular hangouts like MG Road and Church Street, and other prohibitory orders have also been put into place.
We have restricted the movement during New Year's Day, and we have said that there will be no public celebrations, especially in the traditional MG Church Street, MG Road and Church Street. So we have put 144, and we want to control them. Even in pubs, bars, clubs, resorts, all over places, beaches, there will be no public celebrations.
Let me, in fact, go across to my colleague Neha, who's joining me as well. Neha, if you can give us a sense of what are the kind of restrictions that are in place and what are the measures that are going to be taken to ensure that the rules are not flouted.
Avni, first of all, let's clarify that, there are several people, in fact, whom we've been speaking to right now, who are worried about a night curfew being in place. Well, there's no night curfew. It's just that Section 144 has been imposed across Bengaluru, which means nothing but the fact that more than 4 or 5 people will not be allowed to gather in one place. Now, having said that, apart from that, the government of Karnataka hasn't exactly put any other restrictions in place. That means bars, pubs, clubs, all of them will be allowed to function, but only at 50% capacity. So let's just give you a sense of where we are. In fact, this is the Brigadier Road and the Church Street junction, which sees hundreds of people, ideally on New Year coming out over here, just to, of course, unwind with their friends, with their family. So there are several people, that will now be thronging this place in the evening, is what we understand. But the police too, is geared up for this. They have made all arrangements necessary to be able to control the crowds. While, of course, we did speak to the cops a little while earlier, the barricades have been very loosely placed for now. But going forward, as of course we do go later into the evening, it's going to be interesting to see how exactly the police is, going to be sort of manning these large crowds. We also now pick up, from the people over here that many of whom we spoke to earlier are a little skeptical to actually, get out of their homes. That many of them would, rather spend a New Year indoors itself this year, not only because of the crowds, but also, because of the fact that, there are, of course, some restrictions. After about 11:30. We are going to be seeing the police on their toes, trying to clear up the crowds. Let me just try and go ahead, and speak to a couple of people that have actually come down over here to celebrate, the New Year, or to possibly spend it with their friends. Hi, I'd just like to ask you, so you guys have come down for New Year. What are you guys doing? How is it going to be different for you guys this year?
Actually, New Year अभी हम लोगों का प्लान पूरा चेंज हो गया है. पार्टी वार्टी तो हम कर नहीं सकते, तो हम लोगों ने सोचा है कि कोई रूम वगैरह बुक करके उधर ही पार्टी कर सकते हैं. यहाँ पे तो पार्टी पॉसिबल ही नहीं है अभी. बस वही कर रहे हैं. तो हम लोग सामान ही ले रहे थे पार्टी करने के लिए. बस वही कर रहे हैं.
अच्छा, ठीक है. तो मतलब हर साल से इस साल आप लोग के लिए अलग है न्यू ईयर?
डिफरेंट है.
इस टाइम पूरा सेफ्टी का हम देख रहे हैं.
अच्छा.
इससे पहले इतना नहीं देखते थे.
अच्छा, ओके, ऑल राइट.
You can see this mask and all.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, Avni, of course, that was the youth over here in Bengaluru, many of them skeptical to even enter bars, pubs or clubs for that matter, considering their own safety in mind. So it's mostly going to be, a very subdued New Year, and we'll have to wait and see how exactly, this does pan out.
All right, Neha, thank you so much for joining us with all of those details. Well, that's as far as Karnataka and Bengaluru is concerned. But let's now turn our attention to Maharashtra, where there are several restrictions in place. In fact, Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh has reiterated all the restrictions in place on New Year's Eve. Hotels, pubs, bars will be shut post 11 p.m. and he has also urged people to follow all of the rules. Listen in.
कोरोना के चलते हुए इसको भी बहुत ही सादे तरीके से अपने को सेलिब्रेट करना है. हमने जो गाइडलाइन इशू की है उसके तहत होटल्स है, रेस्टोरेंट्स है, बार है, पब है और जो भी एस्टेब्लिशमेंट है उसको 11 के बाद ये खुले नहीं रहेंगे. और लोगों को बाहर जाना है तो जा सकते 11 के बाद. ऐसी कोई पाबंदी नहीं है. किसी दोस्त के यहाँ खाना खाने जाना है या किसी दोस्त के यहाँ कुछ पार्टी रखी है छोटी, वहाँ पे जाना है या मार्केट पे जाना है. लेकिन जो भी पब्लिक प्लेसेस है वहाँ पे 5 से ज़्यादा इकट्ठा होने के ऊपर पाबंदी है. और मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि ये 10-11 महीने में जिस तरीके से लोगों ने सहकार्य किया उसी प्रकार का सहयोग और सहकार्य नए साल का सेलिब्रेशन का जो माहौल है उसमें भी लोगों का सहकार्य मिलेगा, ऐसी मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ.
Let me in fact go across to my colleague Mayuresh, who is joining me at this point in time. Mayuresh, of course, there are certain restrictions in place in Maharashtra. If you can take us through all of those.
Absolutely, every 11 p.m. is the time, is the deadline where all the hotels, restaurants, pubs, including the bars, they have to shut. Even post that people can celebrate, but they have to celebrate at their home. There is no restriction on the commuters. Basically, people can commute from one place to another place, but people in the group of 5, they cannot. So the people have to commute. Then there will be a group of less than 5 people who can commute, and as well as in the public places also, people cannot gather in a large number. Less than 5 people can gather at one place. That's the restriction coming from state government. Though state government is saying that they have left that particular curfew, night curfew, for one day, but all the restriction remains same. Also, considering the first day of the year, usually people tend to go to people prefer to go to the worshipping places, whether it's a temple or church or the mosque. So in those places also there is a restriction. People cannot gather in a large number in these places, and they have to follow the COVID protocol. They have to wear the mask and also have to maintain that social distancing. Also this time, if we consider the 31st December party, Mumbai police will be keeping eye with the help of drones, especially on the terrace parties which happen on the high rises. If we talk about the yacht parties, which usually happens in the Mumbai Sea, Arabian Sea, this time there is no permission for the yacht parties or the boat parties. Back to you.
All right, Mayuresh, thank you so much for joining us with all of those details. Well, this is breaking news that's coming in. The army has renovated Brigadier Usman's grave. Now, the Brigadier Usman's grave is now fully renovated. It's been restored. Remember, this is after the war hero's grave was found in a dilapidated condition. The army took note and renovated the entire grave. You can see the visual there of the entire renovated grave that is there now. Ayushmann is joining us for more on this. Ayushmann, take us through, what happened. Obviously, there was a row that broke out over the condition of the grave, but now it has very quickly been completely renovated.
Well, if you remember, we had spoken to the Indian Army, and on this matter, they have said that they had taken cognizance of the matter and were, in fact, in the process. They said that the exact process will be followed up to take the appropriate action in this regard, and we were told that very soon it would be renovated. And today, the grave of Nauseda ka Seth, Mahavir Chakrawadi, Brigadier Usman, who laid down his life fighting the Pakistani army in 1947-48. His grave has now been renovated, and the dilapidated condition that we saw, it has been completely changed, and it was told to us that very soon the army would be looking into this matter, and that has the grave has now been renovated.
All right, Ayushmann, thank you so much for joining us with all of those details. And on that note, it's time to wrap up this edition of The Big Story. Here's a quick reminder that you can log on to our website, mirrornownews.com. Also follow us on our social media handles.